Hello and welcome back to Young Measures, and also welcome to 2023. Happy New Year to all of you, including those who have just joined us this year. I have prepared you some, say, New Year's resolutions that you can achieve within a span of a week so that you can have a great start to a big productive year. So I am assuming that here you would be some graduate students who are starting on their mathematics journey. So maybe some of the items that I'm going to talk about have skipped your notice, and some of others will be familiar to you, but maybe you have had some doubts about whether to use them or not. So number one list of items is about some tools that every mathematician has to be familiar with and will start using sooner or later. So the first one is Mathscinet from AMS, American Mathematical Society. This is where you can find abstracts of papers, some quick reviews of them, not referee reviews though. And if you want to cite a paper and you want a precise format and the name of journals and the abbreviations of how exactly to cite the paper, this is where you would go. To reach this service, you must be using your university computers or university internet, or you have to have some subscription from other channels. But it also has some free tools, which are nevertheless useful. For example, the category of subjects, for example, what topic your paper covers. You have primary and secondary ones. Those are updated, say, every 10 years or so. To find the latest, you will head to Mathscinet. This particular service is available free for everyone. Okay, so if you don't know what Mathscinet is and you want to find out more about it, make sure you check that out as soon as possible to kick the first item in your list of New Year goals. The next thing will be arXiv, and this is run by Cornell University. It's where people upload preprints of their papers, sometimes years before papers are actually published in a journal, and often months before they have been refereed and accepted for publication. Nevertheless, it's a very crucial tool nowadays because people cannot wait for that long to be able to use the results of new papers and expand on them and produce new research based on how you know the authors and their past. You will have enough trust in their results that you can actually assume them to be true, and then continue working on additional questions in that field. This has been the case for me personally in several of my papers, where we have just continued and produced new research based on preprints on arXiv that got published later, much later than we had actually proceeded. So one thing about this arXiv that you should definitely do is, if you can subscribe to their daily email lists, and based on the topics you choose, you will be receiving the newest preprints in your email every weekday, not weekends, where you will have the title of the preprint and the abstract. So if the abstract and the title and the authors look interesting to you, then there is the link provided there where you click and you go to arXiv and you can download the PDF and have a closer look. This is an amazingly efficient way of keeping up with research and what's happening. If you keep seeing a certain topic being featured multiple times or over many weeks, you may get curious and wonder what that topic is about. That's another way of also expanding your research. It's a bit tricky to have your email subscription to the right topics. On my website, to which I will put a link in the description of this video, I have step-by-step instructions as to how achieve this, or how to change your topics that you've chosen if you're not satisfied with the type of messages, with the type of papers you receive. Another one is Archivist, and this one again you subscribe with your email, and the difference here is whenever you see a title of a paper, you can upvote it or downvote it, and that over time will decide on what type of papers you find more interesting, and then put them on the top of the list every time you log in back to Archivist. And just very recently, maybe not even 2 weeks ago, this Archivist has also started sending daily emails, and where you get a much smaller, more customized list of preprints that Archivist thinks you might find interesting. So that's another one. Overleaf is where you can type mathematics anytime and anywhere, as long as you have internet access. You don't need to download any software application to your PC. And everything is saved online in their cloud, and their free account is already sufficient for many of us. But just so that you know, it's an option if you don't want to have all your files kept on one computer, or you just simply want to be able to edit your writings anywhere from different various computers. Mathsstack Exchange, it's a website where people can ask math questions and other people answer them. Sometimes also they downvote them as stupid and then close the questions. But some people I've noticed are not a fan of this, because they assume it's kind of a cheating, but actually not at all. So there are a lot of homework questions people ask there, but also there are some real serious questions where the authors genuinely don't have an answer to, or have only partial answer to. Sometimes they can really become interesting based on what people come up with. It's just a nice place to write mathematics, exchange ideas. As I will talk more later about writing part, it's a great practice for your writing mathematics, writing clearly, avoiding mistakes and typos. So it's a way to get used to typing before you type your papers. A more serious version of that is Math Overflow, where only research level, research worthy questions are asked, and there definitely you won't see any homework questions, because they are voted out immediately by the community. So check those also out. And if you have more to add to this list that I'm not aware of, please make sure you comment them for the benefit of me and everyone else on this channel, so that we can sharpen our tools at our disposal for the pursuit of mathematics. Okay, some other to-do lists for you, other than checking out others' websites. You can make your own website. This is a very important one. I know that at first it's a bit kind of seems selfish that you want to produce yourself a website. Am I that important, you may ask yourself? Well, it's not just about you, it's a service to the community as well. As you will grow and you will have your thesis, you will have your papers and your maybe lecture notes and things. People will look for that material. And if you have your website, then that's the first place people go to find you and find the material relevant to you. So so think about that. And then also it helps you in many ways when you apply for jobs, and also it's a way to organize your material. For example, if you put all your teaching material there, and next time you are looking for them, you know where to look rather than, digging in piles of old files in your desktop computer. Similarly, it's important to make yourself a teaching portfolio. Whether you put it on your website or not is a different matter. I put a version of it on my website, not with by excluding some certain material. And teaching portfolios are becoming extremely important for jobs. So you'd better start making one. And over time, again, here you may think you don't have that much to build one, but believe me, even like beginning with 1 or 2 pages is a great start. And over time, you will just have more and more ideas of what to add to them. And lastly, don't forget to subscribe to Young Majors, because that way you will have more of this material coming your way. Okay, another thing which I found very interesting and very important is that sometimes we find it difficult to break the undergraduate way of thinking about mathematics, and that can for some time hinder our progress towards a modern research-oriented mathematician. So it's very important that you expose yourself to current and topical research rather than just, reading up on classical work that is now textbook. So it's important to attend research talks. At first, they will be very difficult. You won't understand anything. You will question whether it is worth your time to be there. But I guarantee you it will be. The least you can learn from attending a talk is how people talk about their research, how passionate they are, how do they convey that, how they manage their times, and what type of questions are they asked by the audience and how they respond to them. So these are skills that later become really relevant. At the time, you may not realize these small details, but then when it's your turn to be at the board, you will see that those do matter. So attend research talks, even if you do not understand the mathematics completely. And if you attend a talk on the same subject, maybe 2-3 times, you will all of a sudden begin to have some familiar words here and there and some concepts. At least if they are good, lecturers, they will draw some pictures, and then over time you will begin to appreciate what is going on. Go to conferences for the same reasons, pretty much. I have a very interesting personal story with this. So when I started my graduate school, I had a great algebraic topology teacher, and I got really interested in the topic, and for some time I thought this could be something that I will do for the rest of my PhD as my, thesis and research. But then I attended the conference, and none of the things I heard about there had anything to do with what I thought was algebraic topology. I realized that the algebraic topology that I liked was the one in the textbooks, the most polished part, the earliest examples, and the very geometric ones that, you could approach from multiple aspects. And when it became serious research level algebraic topology, that wasn't the type of math I could imagine myself doing for the rest of my life. So that conference benefited me by letting me know early on that I was not on the right track. Of course, I also learned a couple things there, but even if I didn't, that would be worth the time and the costs of traveling there, although I got compensated for the travel, which is often the case for graduate students. Again, following on reading up on new current research and issues, blogs are a good way to keep up. Look at more recent lecture notes from people, because people sometimes add their point of view or modern viewpoint to old subjects. So sometimes lecture notes have that benefit over the classical best-known textbooks. And talk to other mathematicians. This is a delicate thing. It's if you look at any prize winner video on YouTube, for example, they will always mention how it is important to communicate with other mathematicians and how social mathematics is, despite what it is portrayed elsewhere. And that's how mathematicians find ideas and communicate ideas and get feedback on their, raw ideas. That's how math is produced in reality. And finally, read papers, not just textbooks. And with reading quotation marks, I cannot at this point really elaborate on this, but it will be, reading any paper in detail, any, say, 20-page paper, is a big undertaking. It can take months to really understand the paper, especially if you are an early career mathematician. Reading papers is not an easy task. So with this read, what I mean is, again, go back to this archive and archivist or whatever source you have for receiving these preprints. Just make it a habit to at least open a couple of papers every week and try to understand the abstract or the introduction, because introductions are the part where they try to avoid technicalities and give a broader picture of what is happening. Again, similar to point one here, first few ones, you will have no idea what they're talking about. Already the first sentence has a notion you don't know. But over time, you will begin to understand what's happening. You have to start somewhere, and this is that somewhere. And finally, write anything. I've noticed how important this writing skill is. So when I was applying for graduate school, they asked for English exam certificates like TOEFL or IELTS, and writing was one of them. And you would wonder, why does one even need the skill to write? Where would that come in? Isn't mathematics simple English, just some M is R plus the symbols? Well, no, it isn't. So how would you describe your research to a chemist or to a history teacher? Because sometimes you have to. You apply for some university level scholarship, and part of it is to write a research statement to those people. And how would you convince them that the research you're doing is important or significant or relevant at all? To someone who has no idea and no inclination to read a definition of, say, whatever object you study in your daily life. Is it a manifold? Is it a varifold? Is it a ring or group? They don't want to read definitions. These are not math audiences, so they don't want your survey to start with definition. We call this that. So how can you do that? Just think about it. So it's important then to begin practicing this skill as early as possible. And one way you can do it is by writing a summary of a chapter of a book for yourself. Or if you've been attending this course, you can every week or so, or every month or so even, try to rewrite a review of what happened. So what is this course about? What topics were covered, in what order, what concept is central and not. For example, the back cover of books have a summary, and if you read them, you get some idea of what the book is all about. So you can try to write that type of things for yourself. Another one is to write your own lecture notes. Sometimes when you write your first lecture notes, you realize how some of the trivial looking things have been thought out by the writers. For example, sometimes it may seem very non-significant in what order you put things, because after all, it's just the definitions, early definitions and elementary stuff everyone knows. But when you begin to write a cohesive piece of writing, say lecture notes or on complex analysis, then you are confronted with a lot of choices. So what do you put first? Is this used in that? And you will then realize and appreciate the work of others and how, precise they have been with preparing such notes. And then the last one here is just, if you want more practice in writing, try answering questions on Stack Exchange and Math Overflow. One great thing about this is that you get immediate feedback from others. If something is unclear or vague, they will immediately question that, and you will be alerted to how your phrasing of something was wrong, or you get to see the mistakes. That's what I mean. And this will be an incredible practice for your later work when you write paper abstracts, paper introductions, and more. Okay, so hopefully these tips will be practical enough for you to act upon them within very, very short time, so that you will have a great kickstart to a hopefully wonderful year. Thank you for joining in, and please remember to subscribe. That will make my year off to a good start. And see you in the next video, which will be back about mathematics and geometry of sets. Bye-bye.